A very good afternoon to you. You're welcome to the program, Africa Discourse on Independent Television. My name is Evan Sunokogie, and on this show we talk about the African continent. We look at issues surrounding the African continent, political issues, economic issues, cultural issues, issues that somehow will interest you. And of course, today on the program, Africa Discourse, we're going to be looking at the restitution of cultural artifacts into the African continent. Of what benefit is it going to be? It was in 2017 that Emmanuel Macron, the French president, actually made the very bold step that some other world leaders seem to be following now, talking about restituting cultural artifacts to Africa. As a matter of fact, it was in Ouagadougou, the Burkina Faso capital, that he made a statement that all the African countries are key into. And he said that one of the ways to actually increase the relational, relationship between the colonial masters and African countries is to ensure that those stolen artifacts that were taken from Africa, that they should be returned back to Africa. And of course, only recently, about some few days ago, we also understand that in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, it is still a talk that is ongoing now, as the Belgian government is making efforts, frantic efforts, to ensure that the stolen artifacts that were taken from DRC should be returned to DRC. Then, of course, in Nigeria, we remember that it's been some talk that has been on for more than decades now in Nigeria. And one of the recent of it all was the one that happened recently, where some of these stolen artifacts were returned to Nigeria and, of course, to Edo State. So the big question that we ask when we hear that some of these cultural artifacts are being restituted to our motherland, to Nigeria, to the African continent, is of what benefit is it going to be to us as a continent? Is it going to be of any financial benefits, any economic benefits, or any cultural benefits to us? Well, those are some of the questions that we are going to be answering, today on the program, African Discourse. And of course, to do justice to some of these issues, we are so privileged to have Nwita Igbotako. He's a serial author and, of course, a public affairs analyst, and somebody that has interest in cultural issues in our country and, of course, in the continent of Africa. Nwita Igbotako, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, viewers.
And also we're expecting Emeka Ekuga, also a public affairs analyst, and when it comes to cultural issue, he also, know how to go on so that he gives you some information that you also need to know. So we're expecting him when he comes. He's going to be joining us so that he can make his contributions on this show. Well, we'll just quickly let you see some of the slides. We decided to make some slide shots so that you get to see some of the pictures, some of the images that we're talking about, some of the artifacts in foreign lands, in the Europe, in the Americas, and of course in other parts of the world. These are some of the artifacts that we are talking about. All these artifacts were taken away from the continent of Africa years, 200, 300, 400 years ago. You can see the head of the Indian ESCJ there, and some others from other parts of the country, of other parts of African continent. And for Burkina Faso, for DRC, we understand that DRC seems to be the worst hit as it stands now. More than 80,000 artifacts were stolen from DRC, and they are all located in Belgium. The Belgian government has promised that they are going to return some of these artifacts to DRC so that children will get to see these artifacts, will get to know what they are. It's not just enough for children to read about them in books, to also see them in books. They need to see them live so that they can actually see how they look like. One good thing about this artifact is that they've spent more than 200-300 years, and of course you can still find them in their natural state. So we really don't know how they were made, but I can assure you that these artifacts were man-made. They were made with the bare hands of Africans. So Africa as a continent is really blessed. All right, so we'll just come short of that now so that we can hit the discussion proper. You still see the slide shots of the artifacts? All right, thank you so much there. So Nowita Ibutako, we just saw some of the artifacts we're talking about now, the cultural property that Africans as a people, as it were, had only for our colonial masters to come. They colonized us and they took these things away. Now, it's almost a moral burden for them.
It is.
They are restituting. They want to restitute them back to us, that they want to bring them back to us. But the very big question is, of what benefit is it going to be to us in Africa? Let's start it from there.
Once again, I think it's a very big welcome. It's a welcome development that the Belgian government, in this time, it has not deemed it fit. I'm localizing Belgium now.
Yeah.
Because it's the latest. The other day, so I returned to Benin City and all that. So I'm talking about Belgium. I want to be nostalgic, You remember Patrice Lumumba, the first prime minister that was assassinated by imperial powers in 1960 for after liquidating the principal leaders of the Congo, the Congolese Republic as at that time. They went with such huge collection of artifacts. It's like trying to restitute centuries of injustice, against the people of Congo. Just as it happened in other parts of Africa. I think it's a welcome development. It's a fantastic development. And there are a lot of benefits. For instance, those artifacts, they have cultural values, natural values, and they are one, they are source of, object of, worship. Some of these cultural artifacts, they are object of worship. And they are a source of inspiration, and because of the intellectual value that's inherent in them. So, for instance, the cultural, natural, intellectual items that were taken away several years ago, if they are being brought back to Belgium, for instance, it will go a long way.
Yeah, brought back to DRC now.
DRC, yeah. DRC. It will go a long way. For instance, apart from making money out of it as a source of tourism, because people will be curious to come to the Democratic Republic of Congo to come and see such a large sum of artifacts that are returned or that are going to be returned to the Democratic Republic of Congo. So the benefits are more or less endless, because those who have we have traditionalists, culturalists, who will see them, it's a source of worship. Oh, these are the things of my grandfathers, grandmothers, great-great-grandfathers, our ancestors, this is what they did, So, and some of those things that are bringing back to the Democratic Republic of Congo, we equally, intellectually, to add value. Because the resident country will now use it as an opportunity to make intellectual meaning out of them. For instance, they can use that as a sort of documentation, which can be a source of literature. Apart from physical viewing of these things in their museum in the Democratic Republic of Congo, so such artifacts, they can develop them into literature. They can translate them into books, so that it will be readable. And I know there are culturalists and traditionalists and historians in that country who will use it as an opportunity to do manuscripts for the benefit of the younger generation.
Okay. Now
the benefits are endless.
Yeah.
Source of happiness for the people, source of pride, this is injustice that was done to us is being returned. So, and as we put it, it's a moral issue, more of moral issue. And we just pray that the Belgians could bring this thing intact. I think we must give them kudos for that.
All right, so
the preservation, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the slide shots we are still watching now. It's some of the artifacts we are talking about. You can see the head of Idi and Esige there. That was taken from Benin, from Benin Kingdom, and we have some from Burkina Faso. There's okay, this one is also was taken from.
It must be a Benin.
I recognize. I think this was taken from Burkina Faso. And there's the one that we saw from DRC. This was taken from DRC. That's the Democratic Republic of Congo. And some others there. But you see, it's good for us to know that somehow it's going to make the African continent for us to know what we are, what we were in time past, and of course what we are capable of doing. But if you look at most of these African nations, you know, we seem to have a whole lot of issues, political issues, economic issues, and all that. So the big question we ask is the restitution of these items, the repatriation of these items, if you like now, back to us. Will it in any way help us, you know, in some of the issues we are suffering in this country? Because for some people, they will tell you that this is not what we need. If you like, you return all the artifacts back to the African continent. Africa, as it were, you know, has issues, political issues, economic issues, and all that. We don't need it. I don't know what your talk is on that.
Well, I think, as I said earlier, it's a welcome development, and it's a thing of joy that these artifacts are being returned to the Democratic Republic of Congo. So, and it's a source of pride.
Parts of Africa,
Other parts of Africa. It's a source of knowledge, as I said, source of knowledge, object of worship, and you know, and things like that. So I think Africa is besieged, you know, with a lot of crises, leadership crisis, economic crisis, social crisis. I was in a meeting yesterday. One of my organizations was in a meeting yesterday. Somebody was saying that, why is it that most black administered countries in the world, outside Africa, for instance, I am not debating for what we are discussing, but I just want to quickly touch this. So why is it that most black stroke African administered countries or nations in the world seem to have more problems than other European and other you know, Asian countries? Because of lack of leadership, lack of progressivism, you know, mismanagement of resources, mismanagement of financial resources, mismanagement of human capital and all that. So we want to use this opportunity to speak to those authorities in Democratic Republic of Congo and elsewhere in Africa that have the benefit of having this artifact returned to base, to please take these items as something more than precious, more than you know, priceless, because they are priceless. You cannot price them. And as I was trying to say in my opening remarks, that we should give kudos to the Europeans, for instance, who were able to keep these things in almost near perfect condition.
In the very original states they left.
They left. So if they could do that, I think it's a challenge to the recipients, countries or nations or states or kingdoms. Those are Benin Kingdom now. It's a challenge that it should be modern, fantastic museums, a place of preservation of these items, so that they will maintain that the same quality. You understand? So it's a challenge that we should take these things as precious items, priceless items, and we should not let these items being restituted. We should never let them be a source of crisis, so to say, because corruption has taken Africa into the abyss. So I want to encourage the recipients to ensure that these things are well kept, so that it will be a source of revenue generation for recipient authorities in Nigeria, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and elsewhere in Africa, so that it can be generating revenue. Because people want to come from all over the world. Those who have not had the benefit of seeing these artifacts, these natural, cultural, intellectual items, who have not seen them, you know, they want to come to Nigeria. They want to come to the Benin Kingdom. They want to come to the palace. They want to come to the Democratic Republic of Congo and look at these things. So we should make it a source of income generation. And we should not subject this to political manipulations. We should not subject it to corruption. We should not let this process fall into the scale of corruption, so to say. So we want to challenge the recipient authorities in Nigeria, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, elsewhere in the world, to ensure that this brings revenue to recipient authorities, so that people can pay. And I know that there are some countries, even in Africa, even in Latin America, like Jamaica, for instance. Jamaica is one of the biggest Latin American countries that is enjoying tourism, because there are beautiful oceans, beautiful landscapes in Jamaica. People want to come from America, from Europe, to go and holiday in Kingston, in Jamaica, in such places, so that they can see beauty. So let these restituted artifacts, they are natural, you know, they are cultural, they are intellectual items. Let them be the object of revenue generation, so that people want to come and say, oh, wow, we hear that they've brought some of these things to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Let's go to, what's their country? Is it Kinshasa now? The capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo, you know. So let's go to the Democratic Republic of Congo, or let's come to Benin City. Let's come and look at these things. So I want to encourage the recipient authorities to build monumental structure, befitting, abode to house these items.
Okay. All right. Now, we are talking about cultural restitution here, but there's probably another way to look at the kind of relationship that we had with the colonial masters. Just as they took our cultural items away, some of the arguments are that they also took the kind of life that we lived,
they took it
our
away.
Political system, our
away.
political lifestyle. They took it away. And of course, they gave back what we call democracy today, what we call parliamentarianism, what we call all forms of government that some of the nations of Africa now do enjoy. So the question is, for some people, instead of bringing cultural items, why don't you bring back a political? Why don't it be political restitution?
Is it
rather than cultural, rather than cultural reparation or cultural restitution?
The late Chief M.K. Abiola was a marvel in that aspect. He led the struggle. He led the campaign for reparation to Africa, near Nigeria. That those things, as a result of slavery, the most humiliating savagery ever. When I was consulting authorities on slavery, there are massacres, there are pogroms, which we saw First World War, Second World War. But slavery, collectively, defined by authorities, is the most humiliating savagery ever. You understand? So that's they did to us in Africa. So we cannot quantify.
But no, I think we also need to look at it, because for some people, they will also argue that some Africans also aided them.
Yeah.
Before the Europeans came, take for example the Benin Kingdom.
Pockets of
we had the Benin Kingdom. We already had that slavery. Benin, capturing lesser kingdoms and all that. We already had that kind of slavery amongst us.
Yeah, but we will not run away from the fact that some kingdomists. I say kingdomists. Those days, they collaborated. The colonialists, they were the one raiding the slaves. They were the ones hunting, or we use the word harvesting. They were the one hunting for
slaves.
For slaves.
Yeah.
As you said, we have strata of powers at that level. And Benin Kingdom was one of the biggest, intoxicating, traditional power that went far to the Republic, went as far as many outside Africa and outside West Africa. So, and when you have such strata of authorities like that, there will be slaves, there will be subjects. That's why it's a modern society. We have the middle class, you have the lower rung and all that. So, establish that the kingdom in those days, they collaborated. But if you accuse the kingdomists of those days of harboring or collaborating and all that, it was on a minimal level. Neo-colonialists, came, Europeans and what have you, they came to Africa and they proliferated slave trade. It was slave trade that built America. It was slave trade that built the Industrial Revolution in Britain. It was oil.
Even the White House. We understand that
the White House was built by slaves.
The White House.
The other day, one reverend gentleman that won a senatorial seat during by the reason of the last election in the United States from Atlanta, Georgia. The guy went nostalgic, a senator-elect. He said, today is one of the biggest days in my life. The guy was going down. He said his mother worked in the cotton field.
As a slave?
As a slave. So the guy said, I'm giving this thing as a medal to my mother who worked in the slave forest and all that. So the Western powers, the Europeans, the colonialists, they proliferated slave trade. And without slave trade, in fact, the backs of Africans solidified the American system. As I said, it was slaves that built the White House. Those who have the bouquet these days in modern day Nigeria, they'll bring them the engineers and what have you. We'll tell them what to do. They were the one building. They were the one doing the hard labor. They built the White House and several edifices you see around the world. Even some people are saying that the Westminster building must have been built by slaves. So I agreed that we need reparation. I think reparation is something that we should be talking about now.
Not restitution.
Restitution is welcomed. At least, as I said, it's a source of pride. It's a source of knowledge. Because when you remember what your ancestors did, and you are seeing them with your hands, you can think, oh, my ancestors did this. It's a source of knowledge, source of inspiration, object of worship. So some people want to worship them, the traditionalists. And it's an intellectual items too. You understand? And you equally agree with me that some of these artifacts that were taken away, there were some human beings that were not buried as a result of massacre. You know?
You mean the skeleton of human beings?
They picked them away. And what led to what we know as the modern museum, for instance? When the Europeans came, and they were going home, maybe on vacation, they would pick all these things in their bags.
And they call them objects of curiosity.
Curiosity. And they now put it in their parlor, in their sitting room, call it cabinet of curiosity. They will display it in their sitting room. From cabinet of curiosity,
they don't have,
museums. They now bring a larger place. They now bought from individuals, the state, with plenty of money. They bought from individuals and put in a public museum. So the Western powers have made so much money. This is the point I'm trying to make. You cannot. It is unquantifiable. The amount of money, the amount of resources, the Belgian government, for instance, have made, even the British government, European, the Spanish, name them. Is it in France? So if they are bringing this thing back to us, fine. I'm my brother. They're not going to bring everything.
Yeah, but
they are not bringing everything.
No, which I think we also need to give it to them because, like in Belgium, we understand that Belgium has over 80,000 of artifacts taken away from DRC.
Imagine.
Only DRC. If you put in this studio, you put 80,000 of artifacts, you can barely find a space to put your feet on. So for a nation to have taken that away alone from another nation is disastrous. But the question I'm asking is this. I think we have to give it to them because
it's a welcome development.
Most of these countries, most of these colonial masters countries, these artifacts has been a major source of their income.
Yes.
So for them to suddenly have everything, raw pound sterling, Dutch marks,
people pay
euro and dollars.
Yes.
You know, so for them to now suddenly have everything that let's take them back to the original owners, I think we have to praise them. But the big question is, are we ready to receive them? Now, the one that we saw that came to Benin recently, there were allegations of Hutu being in ownership of them, whether the federal government or the state government. As a matter of fact, I can, right from birth, I've always recognized the head of the ESCG. So anywhere I see that, I always know that it's from Benin Kingdom. So for I'm not saying that that Benin Kingdom does not belong to Nigeria, as it were, but for the fact that it emanated from this kingdom, I think it has to be returned back to this kingdom. So the question I'm asking is that this restitution now, perhaps we're going to have similar issues between state governors, states in nations and the federal government in those nations, in the African nations that are going to receive them.
Yes. Are you talking of contending?
Contending issues, yeah. Contention of who should be in ownership of them.
I'm sure that will come to play. We're in Africa, and where a lot of insincerity comes to play. People,
especially when monetary value is involved.
Monetary value is involved. We are talking of priceless items, natural, cultural, intellectual items, artifacts that you cannot pick in the gutter. You cannot pick in the dustbin. Rare, precious items. So people, naturally, we are more or less capitalists. You know, people want to make money out of it. And look at what happened in those states recently, where the state governor was trying to, you know, is it flexing muscles now with the palace?
We call it allegations
but we
now
saw it.
Because,
it was clear. The state government want to, you know, take possession and want to, you know, build this, build that. Let me keep this, let me keep that. But we must we'll give it to the palace of Benin. They proved that the blue blood that flows inside them,
that the items actually emanated from this kingdom.
We saw the fight, and my opinion, those who where the thing originated from should take possession. So that the Benin Kingdom is taking possession is fantastic, and I think justice has been done. And I want to use platform as we have been watching Democratic Republic of Congo, for instance. The government should take a cue from that and ensure that, because there are kingdoms. The Congo is one of the largest countries in Africa. We have kingdoms there, just like in Nigeria. So the government should allow them to take possession. Those kingdoms should be recipients. What they should do is to monitor them and make sure they are not bastardized. They are not turned into another crisis point in Africa. They should ensure that the things are well kept, they are well managed, they become fantastic source of revenue generation. Okay,
we'll quickly take a short pause now. The program is still African Discourse on independent television, and we're looking at the restitution of cultural items back into the African continent. We saw some of those items a while ago, and we'll keep on seeing them until the end of this program, so that you can actually know what we are talking about. When we return, we're going to be looking at what seems to be a very big issue now. We're talking about artifacts that were made, handmade more than 300, 500 years ago. How come we don't have those things made again? Children don't even, they don't want to go into them. You know, they don't want to go into the making of any cultural items. So we're going to be talking about that when we return. Please stay tuned. All right, thank you so much. The program is still African Discourse on independent television, talking about the restitution of cultural items back to the African continent is what we're talking about here today. And Nowita Igbutako, a serial author, a public affairs analyst, is still a panelist on the program today. Now, Nowita Igbutako, these items that we are talking about, we're talking about items made more than 500 years ago, and you still see them in their very real and natural state, still fresh and all that. Now, no doubt that these items were made with hands, handmade.
Hands.
But the children that we have now, our kids, well, give it to some institutions, some schools in the country today that they still teach them some artworks and all that. But in another, say, 200 years from now, do you think we're still going to have artifacts, or we'll keep on referring to these artifacts that we are referring to now?
Well, 200 years from now, I think we will still have them. You know why I said so? Because the Gun arcade in Benin City it comes to mind. They are still doing bronze making and all that. It's still there.
Yeah, but we don't see any new, no innovation. No innovation. What we still see in Igun are still some of the items that were done 500 years ago. They just replicate them. Does it mean that the artists that we have now, the sculptors that we have now, they are not creative, just as we had those guys that did those things many years ago?
You know, those pre-civilization days, you know, they were not opportune to watch some of the things we have now. It's what that was localized around them that they tried to, you know, to make into bronze carvings and what have you.
Yeah, that's it. Was the realization that they had then, and realization never stops.
Never stops.
We still have realization going on now.
Yes.
So how come we are not making those realization of the world that we live in now?
So what?
So that in another 100, 200 years from now, we now refer to those items as artifacts. The way we are referring to these items as artifacts now.
We are in a jet age, you know. We're in jet age. We are using Android phones and what have you. So what do you want to replicate for tomorrow? You know, we have a global village. What we are doing now is being watched all over the world. So what really do you want to replicate? The Android phones are there. So what is going on in Egun and other historical, you know, sporadic places in Nigeria or your empire, what have you? People just do it as a profession. We are professional blacksmiths. We are professional carvers. People go to them, please give me this, they give it to them. I want this, they give to them. And some people come, tourists, they still come to Benin City. Sometimes we do see them in the Gun Street, we see them in Ring Road. They come to this, say, we want TCC. What they do, they can still replicate those things. Because the raw materials are still with them. They know how to mix the material, they know how to do them and all that and all that. So in the next 200 years, I think Igun will still be standing. And other sporadic places like that across Nigeria, in your empire, in you know, the northern part of the country, they have their own cultural things too. So those things will still continue. So, and thank God for items that are being restituted. I know that the Benin Empire, the Benin authorities, because they make something big about the items that are being returned gradually now. I think they took some items ahead. So I see Benin, the Benin authorities, with due respect to the Oba of Benin, I see them building something magnificent to house those items. And that is that I would say another, source of tourism for Nigeria and Nigerians.
Okay. Now,
so I think it will still be, Igun will still be standing. But we cannot expect something dissimilar, because we're in a jet age. We are using Android phones.
Yeah, the Android phone you are using now, in another 100 years from now, is going to be an artifact.
Something will be happening.
So somebody has to replicate it, somebody has to memorize it, keep it somewhere, so that children yet unborn, we get to know that at the time, we had this thing as an object. That's what you are seeing now. Those are some of the artifacts that we are seeing now. Let's still see some of the artifacts. Let's have the slide shots. One more, okay. Like we had this existed. This is actually the head of a human being, of a woman, and it was the realization that the artists had then, and they created them in their own way, so as to keep it in memory. So items that we play with now, we can still do that, so that in another 100, 200 years from now, we can keep them in memory, so that children yet unborn, we get to know that, okay, we once had this. This was once a realization of the human being, just as what we have now. All right, so because there's no way we can talk about these things without bringing tourism into bear. Tourism in Africa seems to be in a very low ebb, most especially in Nigeria, because we've got a whole lot of issues that we are dealing with. Insecurity is number one thing. A country that must thrive in security, in terror, in
insecurity situation.
Yeah, the insecurity situation now.
The tourism is in danger.
A country that must thrive in tourism must handle security first. Yes. So how do we go?
Well, it's unfortunate that the Nigerian nation is being tormented by bandits, by bloodthirsty terrorists, or so-called S-men, and things like that. And it's a big challenge. And you agree with me that Nigerians are fed up, Nigerians are tired. And the other day, the American government was warning its citizens not to travel to Nigeria. If you come to Nigeria, don't go to the Northeast. I saw it for the mission statement from the U.S. Embassy.
But this is not the first time.
And when after one or two beheadings in the North, that's what they do. They do periodic check in terms of information. Please don't go to this place. So it's a big challenge, and thank God that Nigeria is on transition, so to say. In another few months, we talk about presidential elections, because what we have today is tragic. It's a tragedy. Insecurity is a tragedy. People are being headed. So Catholic priests were killed just like animals the other day. So it's pathetic. So we want to urge Nigerians, the youths, to be focused. This is not a PVC discussion, but these issues are very pathetic. These issues are very fundamental. Because if you want to generate income from items, natural, cultural, intellectual items that are being restituted, we must guarantee security. If you don't guarantee security, then we are not serious. That will not generate revenue. So we want to challenge our people to open their eyes, because Nigeria project is a collective project. As these things are being instituted, we want to advise us to be wise and make sure we vote the right persons who can guarantee our security, because security is a constitutional issue. It's in our constitution, 1999 constitution. It's a government has the power. It's one of the responsibility of government to provide security for the citizens. But now everybody is on their own, and the politicians seem to be they seem to be confused. They don't know what to do. It's pathetic, because we must be secured. So there are makeshift arrangements about vigilante and all that. And I understand that is security vote, for instance. So State governors should complement the efforts of the federal government. They should harm, pay, and take care of these people.
Okay.
So that we have a secure environment. And ultimately, I want to use the opportunity to talk to Nigerian people, Nigerian youths. Please be focused, go and get your PVC. Let's have a responsible and responsive government that will take care of our security so that the artifacts are being returned to Benin City, to the Great Benin Kingdom, the Great Benin Palace, so that people can come and, in the name of tourism, so that it could generate revenue and things like that.
Okay. Now, just as we are trying to draw the curtain on the program today, we must praise Emmanuel Macron, the president in France, the French president who has actually started a revolution. It was sometime in 2017, just like what I said at the introduction, that he actually gave the word in Ouagadougou. That's the Burkina Faso capital, you know, to spur other war leaders that these items should be returned back to the original owners. And as it stands now, we understand that nations in Africa are beginning to receive these items in tranches. The other time we saw some coming into Nigeria, and of course some coming into Benin Kingdom. I don't want to use the word Edo State. Benin Kingdom.
Benin Kingdom.
You know, some coming into Benin Kingdom. But I think other world leaders have to take a clue from Emmanuel Macron, because these items are almost in all parts of the world.
It's
all parts of the world.
Go to the museum. In fact, I was reading an item the other day in New York, in Chicago, in all these big places.
Are making revenue for these nations. Apart
from the slavery, they took items away. In fact, I was reading a document at the time during the era of slavery. You know some people will look very ugly and things like that. They captured slaves. They put them inside cage. People coming to pay money and look at somebody in the US those days. So maybe somebody that looked more like a gorilla, they'll put the person inside cage. Somebody will come and say,
you know, there's a whole lot we need to learn. I was actually
so when you talk about reparation, that is a challenge. You know, that was what Abiola was pursuing before the June 12 palaver swallowed him. So reparation, all this slavery, all this sweat, toil, and blood that Africans suffered, why can't they repair it? And let there be debt forgiveness. It's my opinion. I'm looking for debt forgiveness for African countries. Because in the first place, we're not the African people that incurred those debts.
Okay, as a way of undoing the damage.
The savagery, the most humiliating savagery ever, slavery. It was one of this slavery, colonization came in. Look at what happened to Mulumba in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The West, it was one of the grandest conspiracy ever on Africa. They had to take Patrice Mulumba away because that country is blessed. Uranium, gold, diamonds, and what have you. They flushed Patrice Mulumba and installed a Mobutu Sese Seko. Mobutu Sese
Seko, yeah.
Sese Seko was used to dictate. It was after they have finished, almost consumed everything consumable in the Democratic Republic of Congo, they now push Mobutu aside. So imagine the largest artifacts.
The largest quantity in DRC.
So it pains me that even after the damage they had caused to the political system, after killing people, the civil war that erupted after the killing of Patrice Mulumba, someday all those sensationalists, it was the manipulation of the Western powers. But thank God for God. Let them, apart from restitution items, they should pay reparation. They should cancel some debt owned by the Congolese government. I think that's...
And owned by other African countries too. I was just trying to, you know, just an aside now, because there's a whole lot to really learn from all this. I was actually going through a piece. You know, when we, as a language students, you know, you say, you hear people say, Oshobe, Oshobe. A lot of persons probably don't know where that expression was put out from. that word is actually apes obey.
Obey.
Apes obey. That word was pulled out during the slavery trade.
Yes.
Now it was when the white colonialists, when they used the black Africans as slaves with whip on their back and all that. And of course, you hear apes obey.
Not even human beings.
Obey. So you can imagine, they were referring to
Africans
human beings as apes.
Apes. It was, that's why I said, to the collective verdict of historians. The humiliation is unprecedented. The most humiliated, the worst savagery ever. Slavery. They should pay reparations. Nigerians should move. Civil society organizations should start talking. I am a columnist. Maybe my next column, my next topic, I will talk about reparation. You should reparate. We should talk. What they took from us is unquantifiable. They cannot pay. They should give us some money, for instance. There should be debt forgiveness, for instance. That is the truth. Look at what they did to Opa Borame, yeah? That king was humiliated, was taken to Calabar. What offense did he commit? Because the British government wanted to seize the kingdom at all costs. They were envious of the Benin kingdom, of the mighty of the Benin kingdom. We know the history, how they came. How the king was doing a festival. And the guy said, hey, wait a minute, let me do my... They said they will not wait.
And of course, the allegation of how some high chiefs also contributed.
I know that. So it is painful that our forebearers, ancestors went through this savagery. It is savagery. People were, imagine apes obey. You call it human beings. Are they more beautiful than us? Are we not handsome people here? And our ancestors, they were pretty handsome people, beautiful women, beautiful ladies. Because of colonialism, because they had the gun and the bullet. Now I started calling their fellow human beings apes obey.
With whips on their back.
With whips. So I think we should champion opinion leaders, political leaders. We should come up, civil society organizations, we should come up and reopen this issue, reopen this discussion. Restitution is fantastic, but reparation will be more fantastic. I think that is the way to go.
All right, Nowita Butako, I understand your emotions because if you go through the continent of Africa there's a whole lot that we've lost. They took almost everything from us.
They took everything.
We were talking about the kind of government we had then. The Benin Kingdom, we already had a way of government. But the white man came and they took all those things from us.
Upside down.
And what we have today is almost a misplacement of identity that we now live upon. Well, I just hope and pray that we as Africans should also recognize the fact that we are a people so that it's good that these things are coming back now, so that we actually value, we actually know who we are, what we wear, who we are, and of course what we can still do. Imagine an item, you see some of these artifacts, they've lasted for more than 600-700 years. And they still remain in their very natural state.
Because they were well preserved.
It's very astonishing. It's very, very astonishing. So as the colonial masters keep on returning all these things to the African continent, we really employ and urge African nations to ensure that they make best use of them, so that at the end of the day, these items are not going to be in a very sorry state, and we're not going to have value for them. It's a good source of revenue generation, just as what we are saying here. We can actually create, improve on our museums and monuments with these items, so that we can have other revenue, ways of revenues into our country. Well, the program has been African Discourse on independent television, and a very big thank you to Nowita Butako for finding time to be on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now a very big thank you to you, the viewer out there. My name is Evan Sunokoge. Goodbye, and God bless you.